Welcome back to Cold Front Conversations. I'm Adam, coming to you in the light pink jersey. This week, Alex has decided to take the quarter zip mantle, and Goose in his retro O'Donoghue throwback hoodie. So welcome back. We have probably a decent amount to talk about coming off of a very large Buffalo Bills win over the Kansas City Chiefs. Great game. 30-21 final.
Yep.
30-21.
Just a awesome game to watch, to be honest. To be a Bills fan, anyways. Our boy Josh Allen threw the cape on in the fourth quarter. If you're watching this and you haven't seen the Josh Allen run, I don't know what you're doing, frankly. You stumbled across us somehow and haven't seen that.
Living under a rock.
Seriously, 3 rocks. Because it was my Twitter feed for Sunday night and Monday. All it was Josh Allen runs. But what are some takeaways you guys had from watching that one?
I got to eat my words on thinking Kansas City was going to win that game. But, the Bills they looked good. The entire game, they really kind of seemed in control of that, of the game. So it was refreshing to watch and be able to do that, especially being down, Spencer Brown, Keon Coleman, they looked really good. Defense was doing well. Yeah. And Kincaid was out. So they just looked really good all around.
Pass rush. That was my biggest takeaway. I think I sent it in our group texts, they were blitzing a lot more than usual, which I thought was great. A lot more 5-man pressures, an extra person coming in. Offensive line, even though they were out with Spencer Brown, it didn't even look like that right tackle that came in, the subbing for him really missed the beat. He was spectacular. I don't think there was really any pressure on Allen the entire game. Like you said, Alex, they were pretty much in control the entire game, and it seemed like they were in control. I was a little nervous, the fact that they weren't really able to establish the run really. Outside of the fact that James Cook had 2 touchdowns and obviously Allen had that big run, I think Cook only had 30 yards running for the whole game. It wasn't a lot. As somebody, both Adam and I have him in fantasy, I think he only had 12, 15 points.
Yeah, he did not have a strong showing.
With 2 touchdowns. Even with 2 touchdowns.
Exactly. I'll say with the 2 touchdowns, he did not have a strong fantasy day.
They were only getting one. He was only getting a yard, 2 yards a carry, or that type of situation. And it's not that they weren't feeding him. And then I did find it a little odd that it was it wasn't Jackson, or not Jackson. I can't think terrible names.
Or Johnson.
Yeah, it wasn't really Davis that was coming in. It was
Ty Johnson.
It was Johnson that was kind of coming in on the third downs and stuff like that. I'm guessing it's probably because he was more of the pass catcher and they weren't really established getting anything on first or second down. I know Davis came in towards the end of the game more so, starting off the drives and stuff. Doing a little something different, a little more, north-south versus east and west. But 10 different receivers Allen threw to and hit. He only had the one really mistake, the interception, which
this knocks.
I don't know. A lot of people have been talking that it was a bad throw, a bad decision. I was like, I don't know. To me, the receiver stopped running. So he was just tossing it to an area. So it didn't really look like it was really much on him. Probably wasn't the best thing to do. He probably could have gotten out to the right a little bit or ran it right ahead. Something like that, but it is what it is. Outside of that, he was pretty flawless.
So yeah, I would agree with you on literally every comment. The interception, as you mentioned, Knox kind of stopped in a weird spot. There was still when those guys settle down in zones, I obviously understand that, but he was bracketed both sides. and Allen threw it to where if he had kept running, either Knox catches it or it gets knocked down, right? Like, but that guy had free reign to it. And as far as
he ran right into that DB and then just stopped.
Yeah. Right. And as far as the rushing goes, Cook averaged 9 for 20 yards, 2.2, long of 6. Ty Johnson, 5 for 18, 3.6, long of 8. And Ray Davis, 5 for 11, 2.2, long of 6. I mean, Allen was the only one. Allen had 12 carries for 55 yards, but obviously the 26-yarder doubled his total. So at 11 for 26, he was only at 2.5 yards, a carry. But the Bills, Bills had 104 rushing yards against Kansas City, which, like you said, they had an answer for it. They really shut down the run game altogether. But it was great with no Kincaid, no Coleman. That the other guys, Samuel had a good game finally. They found him. Yeah, he had a nice touchdown too. I thought he was going to fall.
I did too. I thought he was surprised that he caught the ball and was like right at the end zone there. Shocked he's going to score a touchdown.
But I mean, Knox had 2 good catches. The one real nice, like post corner, for 25 yards. Hollins had a big third down catch. I mean, you said what, 10 guys, Goose?
Yeah, I think they said 10 different receivers got the ball.
That makes sense. 10 guys got balls in a game where you're two of your top 3, I would assume, are out. Because I would say Shakir, even though Cooper's probably is realistically a top 3 guy, he just hasn't been yet because he's really only played 2 games.
Right.
Yeah. So Shakir,
your top guys and targets to this point.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, I mean, does great things for the Bills at 9-2. They're the 2 seed, half a game back behind Kansas City, who will beat. We'll pick them later, but I don't think anyone's picking Carolina over them.
And then you're going to Then you had that Zach Davison catch a ball, on a decent,
he's got good hands too.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, Shakir had a big catch on third down, coming over the middle and got wrecked. So, yeah, I mean, that was one of my biggest takeaways too. On top of that is that they weren't just converting on like third and 2.
Yeah.
It was 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9 that they were like getting chunk plays that they were getting chunk plays off of because they weren't able to really run the ball on first down. And then the second down would be usually was like a screen pass or something because Allen would check out of whatever they were in and they would just run like a hot read or whatever, quick toss out. And then they would only get like 1 or 2 yards. And then they'd, run some, decent play or whatever, and he'd hit someone over the middle. But I mean, even putting on 30 on the Chiefs defense, I mean,
that's impressive.
Actually, the Chiefs defense actually, for the fact that even though the Bills got 30, they actually played fairly well. Stopped the run completely, made Allen beat them with his arm, and really, for the most part, they stopped them outside of the fact that they were converting on third down. They just couldn't get off the field on third down, which, that obviously is the negative. But,
right.
I was still nervous that, when they even scored, got to the 30 mark. I texted my friend Derek, who's a Chiefs fan, and I was like, I'm still nervous. Are you nervous about our fantasy matchup? Because he and I were playing each other in fantasy in my other league. And I was like, I care less about that. I'm in last place. But about this game, like I'm still nervous. If we're minute and a half, Mahomes has the ball. It's just I don't know.
You're always nervous when Mahomes has the ball. Like you always think something's going to happen. But I will say, like I was worried that it was going to come down to like officiating, screwing a lot of the Bills over, and it was actually a decently done.
I thought they did a great.
I think it was really good.
The officiating was great.
Yeah, it was one of the better games that I've this year.
The only one was maybe that one we all texted about where they didn't call it back or whatever. Didn't review that. There was one play. Yeah, that incomplete pass. in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Which ended up being kind of canceled out because they
Yep,
ended up
the
having a
holding the next
holding,
play.
which
Yeah.
was pretty questionable anyway. The holding was kind of questionable, but ended up being holding and got pushed back. I mean, the only thing I've seen floating around was I think the Samuel touchdown,
Where
the
Hollins
pick
runs in.
with Hollins
Yeah.
that it wasn't a called, which, I mean, you can kind of go either way with that. I think that's called too much sometimes. And it's like, the receiver's just running his route and he runs into him. I mean, is he targeting the person or is he just running his route and the guy runs into him? So
he there was a lot of contact, obviously. You can't deny that they collide. That being said, that guy was 6 yards off of Samuel behind him as Samuel was crossing under. He had tried to go high and Samuel went underneath it. Samuel's catching that ball regardless of what Matt Collins does. Now he might get tackled at the 5.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying if it was us, it is what it is. I can only say I'd be pissed, I guess, if it was us and it got called the other way.
I mean, Hollins didn't throw his hands up or actually try and hit him. Like, it really, when you look at it, it really does look like it was just incidental.
Yeah.
And the replay, I mean, it didn't look like Chiefs player threw his hands up or yelling for the officiating or, yelling at the official or anything for trying to call something, which typically you kind of try to look for. If they think that there was some kind of issue, there's usually some reaction. So there was no reaction on his end. So I don't think he thought it was anything either. So,
I mean, I was
Travis Kelce, 2 catches.
Yeah, they shut him down. I mean, he couldn't get anything going. Even that one catch he had towards the end where he needed when they were trying to get the first down and he only got 3 or 4 yards on that.
Yeah.
He got tripped up. He just doesn't look, it's like a shell of himself. He's not what he used to be.
He looks pretty slow. In my opinion, a little slower than he normally looks. Now, I mean, I did watch the New Heights, there was some play or whatever, replay of him and Jason talking, and he's look like getting new offense, which is kind of interesting because I know Matt Nagy's kind of calling a lot more plays versus Andy Reid, but I can't imagine it's too different an offense. But he said new offense, everyone's kind of getting used to stuff and everything like that, so I don't really care if I catch the ball or not. 2 catches for 8 yards. That's crazy.
Yeah.
He had 4 targets, but he only had 4 targets though too. I mean, Bernard did a great job on him. I mean, Bernard was following him around everywhere.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. AFC Defensive Player of the Week.
Yeah.
So I was also impressed with even though they, in my opinion, I think in Tony Romo's opinion, they singled Chris Jones too often because he was getting into the backfield. Allen's ability to elude the defensive line to stay on his feet. I mean, they only had 4 QB hits, no sacks.
Yeah.
And Chris Jones he's a game breaker. He'll, unless you scheme for him, he'll ruin stuff. And you could see, there were quite a few times where he got past either Osiris Torrance or McGovern, but he didn't make as much of an impact as he obviously could have. Even I think he actually hit Allen on the pass to Cooper, the one on the sideline, the big rainbow throw.
First quarter.
That's the closest he got to him all day, and Allen was still able to. I mean, he stands in there, man. He still throws that ball on target.
It was funny to talk about that Cooper pass, the one that the first one that he threw to Cooper that Cooper didn't catch.
No, what?
Yeah, and then you I don't know if you could see it on TV, but he points to Allen to throw it up higher, and then the next throw that he throws to him, it's this huge rainbow right into his hands.
Right. He in a post game they asked him about both catches because they're both tough catches, and I mean the first one was one-handed up the sideline, and the second one was the over the shoulder, and he was like, "No, those are pretty much normal catches for me. They weren't that difficult."
No big deal.
And he's so, even nonchalant.
Mhm.
He's like, no, we do that all the time in practice, especially the over the shoulder one. He said, I mean, but the awesome part is he's like Diggs in the sense that late hands, right? He didn't stick his hands up on that one-handed until it was right there, to not give the defender the idea that the ball's there. And I was thinking about it today, actually, because I was in the car for almost 8 hours. And I was thinking, if they still had Diggs, obviously no Cooper, healthy Diggs, and I guess if the drama was gone, right? You can never tell.
Yeah,
But in
that's
an ideal world, if they had Diggs this season, but they went with the everybody eats mentality, what does that look like for the Bills? And the reason I say that is because he's definitely a get doubled guy. Back half of the last 3 years, he was doubled in the games that mattered down the stretch against the good teams, right? And I wish it could have worked for at least this year, because you look at him and Allen were the number one receptions, number one yards, number one touchdowns in the times they were together in the NFL. I mean, that's a pretty impressive feat given some of the other combos out there. And I'd love if I would have loved if it could have still worked, because with Coleman kind of coming into his own a little bit, and Kincaid and Shakir have elevated their games, I mean, it could have been a greatest show on turf kind of situation.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Like, because before we got rid of Diggs, didn't that we signed Samuel like right before we got rid of Diggs, didn't we?
I think it was right
Was it-
after.
Was it right after?
Yeah.
Oh, then never mind. Why did I think? I thought it was like right before.
They traded Diggs before the draft too. So do they draft Coleman?
I think they still do. I think they
who
still
knows?
get him.
I mean, they might.
But
Yeah.
because it would have been Diggs's last year on his contract.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you were to think Diggs at the 1, Coleman at the 2, then Shakir in the slot, you may not get Hollins actually.
Right.
Yeah, you wouldn't have Hollins. Yeah.
because he'd be the 5th receiver if he was on the squad.
Yeah.
So that's a definite different dynamic. But you got those 3 guys in Kincaid as the 4, either out of a slot or a tight end spot. If you go 4 wide, you had MVS, who has been killing it, by the way. He's got
Classic.
3 or 4 touchdowns
Yeah.
in 2 weeks, and he's got like
Yeah.
350 receiving yards.
Unbelievable.
It's amazing. And we threw him 4 balls.
Have you guys seen
Derek Carr throwing that to him too.
you guys seen like Mac Hollins's like page or whatever? He like posts these like maintenance tips or whatever. He like did this one about how to fold like a fitted sheet, and then maintenance on your AC condenser, and how to you should clean your pipes out every year. And I started laughing, and I was like, oh, I never clean my pipes out every I don't like, it's a good idea. I did it the other day, but just because felt like there was a little bit of food that was stuck in there or whatever, a little clogged, so I just did the baking soda and vinegar thing, but didn't know it was something that kind of recommended or thought of that you should do it.
He's a
annually.
strange man.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy.
I love it. I love the fact. I love it that he like walks around with no shoes like all the time.
He walked in with like
it's-
construction
it's
uniform
awesome.
on for the game,
I
didn't
think
he?
it's awesome. I think it's awesome.
He's just a funny guy.
Hard hat and a reflective vest. Yeah.
The stadium's
he's-
starting to look
he's
good.
funny,
The new
though.
stadium's starting to look good. You saw that at the very beginning of the game. They had the overhead shot you can see in the background. It looks like it's moving along a little, pretty good. But
Yeah.
here they've had some issues. I talked to a construction crew when I was out there doing visits for work and stuff, and like, oh, you guys are a pretty big GC in the area. You're not on the Bills project. They're like, no. I was like, oh, that bad, huh? He goes, yeah, you don't want to be dealing with that nonsense. He's like, it's an F show. We'll just put it that way. It's a crap
There's
show.
too many. I think there's too many hands in that pot.
Yeah.
Too many people that need to work together that all are, what I say, too many, I'll say for too many leaders, not enough followers, in when it comes to that stuff. In fact, one of my dad's best friends, his name's Sam. He's in charge of, he's one of the guys in charge of Gray Bar, which is an electronics or like lights and electrical distributor, and they work. They're Fry's distributor, and Fry is the one that's doing all the lighting at the stadium. They do the Bill Stadium now and the new one. And he was telling me once, and he was just like, I'm so glad I'm not involved in that project because it's insane the amount of talking heads that have input. And they're over how much, Alex? Do you remember seeing the tweet?
Oh, how much money they're over? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I can't remember but it's like millions of dollars. So yeah, it's like crazy money.
Yeah, they're looking to sell 20% of the team.
Yeah,
the Bills for an investment stake. And I heard it was like Vince Carter and, and a couple of other sports.
Tracy McGrady
people. Yeah, team.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. They're cousins. But there was somebody else in that group. But yeah.
Well,
that's a huge project to do, though. I mean, like that thing is massive. When you go by
there's only been it's like every 3 years a new stadium essentially is built. So it's probably the largest sports venue build going on right now, I think, because no one else.
Tennessee's building one too.
Right, I'm sorry.
So Great American's actually got a specialty construction division now that actually we're the insurance carrier, the liability carrier for the general contractors, like liability for that project. So we've had a guy that's gone to that project like 2 or 3 times already. Nashville projects. So
nice.
Pretty neat.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Nashville and MVS, as far as one that impacts kind of the Bills, we had Steelers Ravens, which you guys had a chance to watch.
I did.
I was impressed with the Steelers defense and play calling. I was unimpressed with anything Baltimore did. And I was unimpressed with the offense of Pittsburgh. I mean, they got 5 field goals or 6?
Oh, yeah, that's all they did was field goals. Yeah.
And Lamar did not play to the level that you expect him as an MVP at the time, MVP frontrunner before the Kansas City Buffalo game.
Yeah.
He just did not show up. But he's 2-9 lifetime against the Steelers.
They're in his head.
Yeah. It was
it was a really good game. I had a good day of football on Sunday, watching that game first and then rolling right into the Bills Chiefs. I was kind of watching it on and off, more so because I had Russell Wilson in fantasy, which worked out great for me, 6 whopping points.
Yeah.
Probably the reason I lost this week, Adam, because they didn't get me 7 points or anything, Anyway, so Pittsburgh's offense looked pretty terrible, but I think that was kind of the idea with them. I don't think they wanted a shootout. They just wanted to control the game and just muck the game up and just, take time off the clock, less time that Lamar has the ball. And, Derrick Henry fumbles for the first time in 180 touches or, some crazy number.
First possession, right?
80 games or something. Yeah. So a few things went their way. I mean, I think I did pick the Steelers that week, just simply because it was in Pittsburgh. I figured there was something that they were going to end up splitting eventually. Because I think, Baltimore, they played earlier this year. Baltimore won that game, right?
Time.
Yeah. Baltimore won that game. So I figured since the Steelers lost that one, that they would win this one. Good use of Justin Fields towards the the end of the game. Using his legs, give them something different. So I mean, they had decent play calling. The offense didn't look very good, but they had much play calling when they needed to. And kudos to whoever had Chris Boswell freaking.
I had him in
Stefanski.
my fantasy league. He brought in like
Two-
20 points.
two 50-yarders, 6 field goals. Nice.
It's the reason that I won.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Lamar, as far as Baltimore concerned, I mean, Baltimore's defense looked fairly decent in what they haven't looked over the last couple of
They
weeks.
held them without a touchdown, so that's decent enough. Yeah, you're right.
But, man, their offense looked bad. And I don't know if it's just that Pittsburgh just knows what to do against them. But whatever they did, if Bills meet them again, like whoever's playing them should just look at whatever Pittsburgh did and just be like, that's what we need to do. Because, man, Lamar couldn't do anything. And then you get the one pass that he throws perfect to Zay Flowers, hits him right in the face.
That thing came off hot off of his face.
Yeah.
Wow. So far. And then he just went, I don't know. It was tough.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I think that's the difference between the AFC North and the other divisions in the AFC. They are all built to stop the run, even Cincinnati.
Mhm.
But I mean, with the folks you have in that division, healthy Nick Chubb, now Derrick Henry.
Previously, Joe Mixon.
You had Mixon last year, right?
Yeah.
And who would the fourth be? I'm blanking. For some
Najee
reason.
Harris.
Thank you.
Yeah, Najee Harris, yeah.
And then previous to him, even James Conner, which is, a few years ago now. But there were some stud running backs in that division, and I think all those teams built themselves up to be able to contain the run, that make the quarterback beat you by the arms. And with the exception of Burrow, and now Lamar's gotten better at it over the course of the last few years. No one was going to outthrow anybody. Not when they didn't have a run game to stand on. So, speaking of Burrow too, that game at night, the Chargers and the Bengals was just a smoke show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Bengals come out short again in back-to-back weeks in a shootout.
Yeah, I think that comes down to coaching a lot of that.
Chargers had, 34-7 at one point, and then Bengals came roaring back. I mean, I went to bed because I was just like,
24-7.
This game's over.
Yeah.
I was like, this game's over. And then I woke up and looked at the score. I was like, oh, wow, 34-28. Okay.
Yeah.
Missed the most exciting parts. But
yeah, I think that all comes down to, I think, what's his name? Zach Taylor's going to be on the hot seat. I mean, like that's 2 games in a row that he's kind of fumbled a game on him at the very end.
I won't repeat it on here, but from what I've read and watched the video on Twitter, Jamar Chase went off on Taylor during the game.
I heard that too.
Yeah. This is all your fault. Expletive, slur, expletive. It was from what Twitter said, and it was a lot of things on Twitter. I mean, it's Twitter, so it could be wrong, but he has been very vocal in his post-game conferences about Burrow not hitting him enough or not seeing the field when he's open. And the guy's got like 420 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks.
I mean, he said that after the one game where he like exploded.
I'm always open.
Yeah, I'm always open.
263 and 3 touchdowns.
Well, he made a comment about Evan McPherson too, the kicker, because the kicker missed 2 kicks. He said something about the kicker. That's why we're paying him the big bucks to make those kicks.
Yeah, right. He is not afraid to talk,
which probably is not helping him much. If he doesn't get re-signed, which all signs are pointing to Cincinnati's probably going to re-sign him. Although,
they'd have to.
Yeah. I think it's kind of silly that they waited until. I mean, I get why they waited, because it's like he hasn't gone 4 years; he's only done 3, and that's kind of the precedent. Is in your 4th year, then you get your extension. But I mean, it's going to cost them more money next year.
Yep. Cincinnati's awful.
They should have done it. They should have done it before CD signed, because got the extension. Because now he's set the market. and Jefferson set the market. Jefferson's actually set the market. I think he's at 36, 37 million a year, and I think Ayuk and then CD, kind of like right behind them or whatever. But stupid. Yeah, it just didn't make sense. But that's Cincinnati though for you. I mean,
Yep. They wait too long to sign people, and then they kind of like ruin, the feeling between the player and the organization, and then the player leaves.
Yeah, they're doing the
So
same
I've
thing.
always said that.
I mean, they're going to lose T. Higgins. They're going to lose T. Higgins at the, because they put the franchise tag on him twice. So
he's gone. I mean, there's a good shot they lose Chase and Higgins, and then I don't know who their number 3 is.
Sovis or something. How do you say that?
Yeah.
So unless he's the next Jamar Chase, which I don't think, they're in for a rebuilding year in Cincy, just contract wise. They just won't be able to do it because Burrow got paid since Allen's gotten paid. So that'll, and he was what, 1? Burrow? Number 1 overall.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So he's top of the mark where he was.
I think he's around like 52, 50, 53 million a year, something like that.
It's crazy to think that they were actually in the Super Bowl a few years ago, and now they're just like they're just falling apart. Well, and then you look at the Bills. I mean, you look at the Bills and even Baltimore. Like, they're consistently a good team for 5 years.
Yep.
And Cincinnati just can't seem to get it together to keep that. I mean, they have their roster is unbelievable, and they just can't.
Yeah,
that's bring anything together. Yeah.
Their defense is not nearly as good as it was the last 2 years. I mean, even like their defense wasn't, the greatest, but they had good corners and they had good players, but they lost a few of those guys this past year in free agency. And then they, Burrow obviously hurt all last year. And then he got hurt, I think, the year before. He had that Achilles issue, and then he got his wrist issue last year and stuff like that. So,
or his ACL, didn't he?
Yeah. Was it? Oh, it was ACL.
ACL,
And he was having an issue with his, it was kind of his calf. So people were talking that he shouldn't play at all because it might be his Achilles, and then comes back and plays, and then he ends up hurting his wrist. That's something to do with his wrist, and against Baltimore, I think.
That's a product of his offensive line being as bad as they were.
Yeah.
Just got smoked. So, speaking of stud quarterbacks, the New York Giants have moved to Tommy DeVito, Mr. Cutlets himself.
I'm actually surprised. I was surprised that they went with DeVito versus Locke, but I'm not at the same time, because I think he did a good job last year, but I don't know what the goal is to some extent, because I actually think it's just interesting because Drew Lock was your number 2 all year, and then DeVito is your 3rd string, and you bench Jones and go to your 3rd string guy. No, so I mean, I've heard things that that DeVito's just looked better in practice. He knows the offense better, and then he had obviously what he did last year, and so that's why Dayball went with him. But it's just kind of, I've read a few things today that the locker room is like a little upset that they kind of just skipped Drew Lock and went to DeVito. Not that they don't like DeVito, but it's kind of like, it just doesn't make any sense. And then they don't understand why they're benching Jones because it's about money. Which is this and that. So I don't know. I mean, I understand it. I mean, they shouldn't. I don't know what they've been waiting for to begin with. I mean, I don't think this was a coach's. I don't think it was Dayball's decision to continue to play him. I think it was more over his head to some extent. Like, hey, we're paying this guy $40 million a year. We have to play him. So it's. Which is kind of what we saw in Hard Knocks. Shane was like, we got a $40 million quarterback. We're not going to have him handed off to a $15 running back, which is the famous comment. But from that, I understand what he's saying. we're not paying someone $40 million to hand it off to a running back. We're paying him $40 million to throw the ball. So it's, but I think they see the issue that was the last couple of years is that the offensive line was so bad that you're just like, all right, well, maybe if he had time, nobody would be good with this little bit of time to some extent. Like Patrick Mahomes wouldn't be this good with this offensive line type of thing. So now the offensive line really is fairly decent. They put money into the offensive line, and I mean, even he just looks so bad. Even without it, he doesn't make any decisions. He's late making decisions. I mean, I don't know if you saw Todd McShay's. They've shown this clip a few times. Todd McShay with ESPN after he got drafted, they were talking to him about the pick, and he just went completely off about it. Like, I don't understand what they're doing. He has had 6 good games his entire college career. He doesn't make decisions well in the pocket. He's late to make reads. He's very smart. He's going to be a gamer, but he's going to put in the work, but he's not there. And the only reason they took him, really, if you think about it, is because David Cutcliffe, who coached Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, who went number one picks, vouched for him and said, hey, like this guy's going to be, one of them, blah, blah, blah. And that's one of the reasons why they jumped up to get him. And it's really, like, all you have to do is watch the tape. Like, that's why the tape is there. So that was the previous GM's decision, who was, did make a few good picks. He picked Dexter Lawrence. So, he picked him in the first round. So I remember when that came out, nobody thought that was a good draft pick at that point. But he's turned out, obviously really good. So, but,
speaking of Dexter Lawrence, like, he even made a comment about the locker room and everything going on with going to DeVito, and like, well, because they make their decisions. I don't really know they're thinking about it, but I stand behind whatever the coaches want to do. Trust the process type of a thing.
Yeah, him and Jones are really close. Like, they're actually really good friends. Because he was on ESPN radio. I think he was on the Sportsmanlike in the morning or something. Or one of the shows. I can't remember which one. I think it was either on Sportsmanlike or Carlin versus Joe. And they were interviewing him. He was doing like Campbell's soup promo or something. And they asked him about Daniel Jones. I can't remember the exact question. And Daniel Jones and he was my best friend. That was the answer. They're like, oh. And he was like, yeah, that dude, he's my guy. We're really close. We do everything together. So, I can't imagine he would be overly happy with, that, just being in that situation. But yeah, Jones is done. He's not playing again. They're going to drop him at the end of the year. The issue is then, what do you do? Do you try, are you going to draft a guy? Because, we've talked about it.
There's not much.
Shador, but it's not the same class. You've got like 3 guys really, but it's not the same prospects in this scenario that it was last year. So, what do you do? Do you see if Minnesota re-signs Sam Darnold? Do you take a shot at Sam Darnold? Because J.J. McCarthy was drafted 6. I saw something else. I remember one of the other guys that they were talking about, but
for Dak.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't think Dak's going to happen. No, unless Dak, the only way Dak would ever happen is they'd have to trade for Dak, because Dak signed. So you'd have to, and the only way that's going to happen is if Dion goes there to coach, and he's going to bring Shador there, which I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know how you trade Dak in that scenario. Dak would have made sense.
One of the names that
Dak would have made sense if he didn't get re-signed. That was one of the thought processes that they had been talking about on ESPN, that if the Giants would probably be interested in him if he didn't sign. But given that he signed, to try and trade for him is going to be a lot, and is it worth it now coming off of this hamstring issue? And he obviously hasn't looked quite as good this year as he had like in the last couple of years. I mean, there's obviously a few things going on there, but
Yeah, Stafford was the other name that I had seen tossed around as like a 1 or 2 year thing.
yeah,
Just because he can,
Trey
I say he
Lance
can
was
throw the
another
ball.
one.
He's
I
you know
saw
he
I saw
he
Trey
excelled in
Lance.
Detroit even when it wasn't very good there himself.
Yeah, there was another name that I'd seen that I was like, oh, I hope not. But anyway, it is what it is at this point. But
It'll be an interesting
who knows?
offseason for the Giants.
Yeah, it always is. It always is. I mean, I hope that they're a little patient to some extent. And Mara said that he's going to be patient. But I don't know what happens if they're going to their last game of the year and they only have 2 wins. I don't.
Then you
don't
try
know.
not to win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but what I mean is, what's Mara's thinking going to be then? The owners, what's he thinking then at 2 wins and the stadium's half full? You're
He's
keeping
thinking
the
that if
GM and
draft
you're
pick will
keeping the
fill the
you're
again.
keeping the GM and you're keeping the coach at that point. I don't know. I mean, it's a
I
tough
can't
decision
imagine.
to be in.
Yeah, I can't imagine they're there at the end of this year. I think
I mean,
they're gone.
he has said that he is going to be patient. He's going to ride it out with them because they really haven't been able to pick their guy yet. So,
They said that. The Jets said that too.
Say the same thing.
Yeah.
So Willie Johnson said the same thing about Salah.
Speaking of the Jets, it doesn't surprise me that they fired him, but it's surprising in the sense because he's gotten the guys. I mean, he whiffed bad, obviously, on
Rodgers.
Yeah.
No, I mean, really, that's the move to get Rodgers, but on why can't I think of his name? Quarterback last year that was god awful.
Oh,
Wilson. Thank you,
yeah,
Zach.
Wilson.
I knew it,
Yeah.
Zach, and I just couldn't think of his last name. I kept thinking Taylor.
Yeah,
I was like, that's
that
the
guy's
Bengals
got
coach.
Gardner, not Pickens. What's the receiver?
Wilson.
Wilson. Thank you. There's like, I saw the list today on Twitter. There's like nine draft picks that are all starters and all names you would I didn't slip my mind, but they're all names you would recognize.
Yeah.
Like, name every good player on the Jets, and it's guys that he's drafted.
I think that also comes because of like how high they were drafting too, though. I mean,
Sure.
how what I mean? Like, I think
looking at
it's
the
not hard to
here.
get a good pick off of that when you're always picking like in the top 5.
I'll give you that's fair.
But I also think like a lot of that comes.
There's been a lot of misses in the top 5 though too. I mean, Zach Wilson was
That's
drafted
true.
second. Zach Wilson was the number 2 pick.
Yeah. But I think they were just listening to whatever Aaron Rodgers wanted. I think that's ultimately at the end of the day what got them fired. Was just whatever Aaron Rodgers wanted, they got. I mean, look at the guys that they brought in were all of his old teammates. Yeah, like Devontae Adams. So they just brought in anybody that he wanted, and it's just a train wreck. And I think the ownership was just like, all right, we got to end this.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Yeah, I mean, at least with the Douglas, but it'll be interesting looking at that GM position. That position. Candidates. It'll be an interesting conversation because if they have multiple offers, I can't imagine they're going to go with the Jets to some extent. Just simply because the owner's a crapshoot, and what do you do with Rodgers? Because technically he's on the books for next year. So is it, do you ride it out with Rodgers, or is this like, hey, I can draft a guy, and it's just it's a bad situation there because they've given him the keys. Yeah, I mean, but then is that going to piss Rodgers off to some extent, and then he's going to be like, all right, see you later.
He's got to see the writing on the wall at 43 that he's got to have somebody down.
I mean, I get it, but
he's just an egomaniac, though. I don't think he would even see it. He'd be like, why wouldn't they want to play me? I'm Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I think they end up playing him until the wheels fall off, if that's the case for next year. Yeah. But they have
where does he sit in,
Well, they have the stud behind him to learn. They always say that, to learn. But at 43, you see how many bumps and bruises he's taken as it sits. And you're hoping that him and Devontae with a quote fresh start can recapture some of the magic. I don't think so. I think it's the wrong move. But anyways, whatever. The whole AFC East sucks except for the Bills right now. So
I'll be honest. Like the Patriots, though, like
Drake
look,
May
the
looks
Patriots
solid.
aren't.
Drake May looks good.
But
He looks real good.
and their defense is halfway decent too. I mean, they didn't do well this past week, but they have a pretty decent defense. Their offensive line's not very good, but for what they were supposed to be, I mean, the fact that they've got 3 wins, I mean, a lot of people were saying that they were going to go over, type of thing. So, they've beaten a few good teams. I mean, Cincinnati's questionable if they're a good team, but they're dangerous at least. They have a lot of good weapons.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So they beat Cincinnati in Cincinnati. They've beaten some good teams. So, you kind of looked at that on the end of the Bills schedule of like, oh, they get 2 easy games against the Patriots, in 3 weeks or whatever. Those games aren't looking too easy right now, type of thing. I mean, Drake May's dangerous and decent running game, decent defense. So it's not looking quite as easy.
Well,
yet, anyway,
we're going to get the chance to decide their fate here momentarily because we're going to jump right into pick'ems now. And since Big Meech isn't here right now, we're going to start doing it by winning percentage because we're going to definitely have more wins and more losses than him after this week's picks. So
he didn't send you his picks. You should have sent him your picks.
Yeah, he's at like I was telling you guys earlier, he's at a meeting. I could get him from him, and he wouldn't know what we picked. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll just sub him into his totals. So yeah, maybe we'll do that way. So first game is we have Steelers at the Browns. Pittsburgh are 3.5 favorites. I'm gonna go Steelers.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Steelers.
Steelers.
Yeah, perfect. Next is Bucks at Giants. Tampa Bay are 6-point favorites. I will be riding the Tampa Bay train.
Yep, same here.
No, I'm just kidding. I could actually see this being a game that the Giants actually win because, I mean, he does get
Cutlets coming in.
Cutlets coming through.
But I think the Bucks are too good on offense, and I think I just saw that I can't remember his name. I'm so bad with names.
Baker Mayfield. This is
bad. No, not Baker Mayfield. Receiver.
Mike Evans.
Mike Evans. Mike Evans is questionable. He got upgraded, to potentially being healthy. So, Evans coming back. I'm going with the Bucks too.
I think that's the play, probably. But we all thought that with the Bears a couple weeks ago. So that didn't work out.
Yeah.
Chiefs at Panthers. Kansas City are 10.5-point favorites. I'm going to go KC.
Yeah, I might go KC.
I don't like that spread. That's a terror.
That's huge, but
I definitely
coming off a loss, they might pull a Detroit, Jacksonville, and just beat the brakes off.
That was wild. That game was nuts.
Maybe, but Chiefs.
Cowboys at Commanders. You want to talk spreads?
Commanders.
Washington is the 10-point favorites. Yeah, Commanders as well.
I'd actually probably take the points on that one. Play the points because Dallas looks terrible.
They look like they've just given up on the season.
They just got blown out at home. I mean, Houston's a good team, but they just got. I don't know what they're doing. I still don't get it. Why they're playing Cooper Rush? It makes no sense to me. But
Trey Lance, right? Like you have him.
Yeah. Use him. See what he has. I mean, makes no sense. Anyway.
Pats at Dolphins. Miami are 7.5-point favorites.
I think I'm going to have to go Miami on this one.
Same. Part of me wants to go Patriots.
I know. Part of it, like it's. I think this is going to be a toss-up, though. I think the Patriots can beat They can beat Miami, but I just.
I'm going to go Pats. I'm going to go against. I'm just going to go with the Pats. Be different.
Perfect. Titans at Texans. Houston are 7.5-point favorites. I'll be going Houston.
Houston.
Yeah, same.
All right. Lions Colts. Detroit are 7-point favorites. I'm going to go Detroit.
Oh, yeah, that's. That's going to be an easy one for me.
Colts.
Oh, really?
Richardson just had a huge game. I'm going to go with Colts.
All right.
Go with the Colts and the surprise.
Hey, I'll give you credit for taking an L there. It's I'm sure.
Completely like throw it back in my face, but the fact that
Hey, it's,
look,
what
the
do- I
line's
mean-
been rolling. At some point, it's got to stop. Sometimes it's going to catch. Anzalone just got hurt, and at some point, all these injuries are going to start piling up. Is going to catch up with them at some point or another. So, on the defensive end, and they're obviously going to be able to score. Indy's defense isn't horrendous, so they can come out and have a decent game plan. And Richardson looked really, really good last week. So
yeah, he did.
So
Indy's gonna
those
go.
Colts.
We'll see.
Go for it.
All right. Let's see what happens.
Vikings at Bears. Vikings are 3.5 point favorites in that game. I'll be going Minnesota.
Yeah. It's in Chicago.
Chicago looked pretty good last week too.
Yeah. I think I'm
better
gonna,
than what they have. Better than what they have been.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go by the Vikings.
I will go with the Vikings as well. With everybody on this one. I'm done picking the Bears.
We pick them, they lose. We don't pick them, they win.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Broncos at Raiders. Denver are 6 point favorites. Denver.
I'm Denver.
This will be the game that the Broncos lose, but I'm going to pick Denver.
That's fair.
They just looked so good last week,
Oh, Nick, 19 touchdown passes this year.
He looks
That's
pretty good.
Yeah,
He
looks legit.
had
19
him
total
pegged
touchdowns.
from
Something. He's 19.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. Packers, 49ers.
I'm gonna go
49ers
Pack.
at the Packers, I'm sorry. Green Bay are 2 point favorites. I am going to take Green Bay.
Yeah, same here.
Sorry,
No,
Green Bay.
I think the 49ers they're pretty banged up right now, aren't they?
yeah.
Brock
Yeah, they
Purdy's
are.
got a shoulder injury, is it?
Yeah,
Right?
they were actually talking on ESPN the other day, like, when do you call it and just say like, hey,
The 49ers always have injury issues.
they did
Was
last
it a
year.
couple of years ago? Yeah, last year they didn't, but a couple of years ago they looked like a legit team, and then they fell apart. That's the year that the Bills beat them in San Francisco.
Yeah,
they just injuries just decimated them.
Those soft San Francisco hands. Cardinals at Seahawks. Arizona's a 1 point favorite. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say I'm going to take the Seahawks.
Taking the Cardinals. But I could 100% see the Seahawks winning this. This one's
Pulling that one out. Yeah,
The Seahawks are so
they're inconsistent.
DK Metcalf.
last week
we're not.
they looked really good. This is the week at home that they should continue to ride this one out and win, but they're going to lose. So I'm going to pick the Seahawks. I'm going to pick the Cardinals. I'm going to ride with the Cardinals again because the Cardinals worked last week. Adam, I picked the Cardinals last week, so I'm going to pick the Cardinals again.
Perfect. Eagles at Rams. Eagles are 3 point favorites. It's Sunday Night Football. I'm going to take the Eagles.
Yeah, I think the Eagles look pretty good. They've kind of turned
Eagles
it
look
around.
so
Yeah.
good, right?
Yeah,
Eagles look
so
so
I'm
good
gonna
right
pick
now.
Eagles.
They look like, outside of Detroit, which looks obviously, but the Eagles are getting to that point. Obviously Detroit's putting up the points, but talent-wise, Eagles have the
Yeah, they're
firepower
like a
to
quiet
match
8
them.
and 2.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Eagles are, which is
they look so bad
weird.
to start the year, but they've racked off 7 wins in a row or something.
I
Yeah,
was going to say they started really not great, but they're 7 or 6 in a row, something like that. And Minnesota's 8 and 2.
Yeah.
They had those 2 games. They looked awful. Like how did this team get to be 5 and 0? Then they lost 2, and then they're on the streak again. So
Yep.
Monday Night Football. Ravens at Chargers. Baltimore are the favorites by 3.
I think the
Then I'll
Ravens
let-
are.
Ravens for Alex.
Yeah. Yep. I think they're just gonna after
Chargers.
last game. I think they're just gonna
Chargers.
come out.
I think.
Chargers.
No, Harbaugh Bowl. Harbaugh game. I think Jim's going to come out and have a game plan ready. So I think this will be. I think the Chargers will win this one because I think he's going to want to beat his brother.
I got the Chargers as well, and I'm banking 1,000% on a what's it called, a J.K. Dobbins and a J.K. Dobbins big game, and Herbert, like, I'm not bouncing back because I beat Cincinnati, but just kind of carrying that momentum, like extending that, you know what I mean, that momentum from that win. But if the Ravens win by 21, I would not be surprised either. So it's kind of I think
Yeah.
the Chargers win in a shootout. All right. So, as you can see, there's updates on the screen there. So, that's where we're at. And I will add Mitchell's picks in for next week's stats. Let's spin it to the Sabres real quick. I don't have much to say on the Sabres other than they lost to Canadians.
Yep.
Which hurts my heart after which is the Canadians are the worst team in hockey.
Yep.
They
They beat the good teams. They lose to
lose to the bad ones.
Bad ones.
And then you got Tage Thompson, who
He's out again. I think.
he's
right.
out.
For this-
And
the game tonight.
So I don't have much on the Sabres, to be completely frank with you. I haven't had time to pay attention.
I really haven't either. But I don't think they're going
I
to
have-
win
I
this
haven't-
game.
I
And
haven't
they're
paid
going to
attention either.
LA. I mean, they don't. The first game on a road trip, they're never really that great. So
Yeah.
I don't think they're coming out with a win. They also lost to LA earlier in the year.
Earlier in
So
the season.
I don't think they're going to pull out a win
Is
this
this
time.
is this their Calgary road trip where they end up playing like Calgary and Seattle and those
I'm
guys?
not sure. Let's say. Where are they on? Yeah, they go. Yeah, so they go. Looks like they go to. Yeah, they go to the Kings, then Ducks, and the Sharks.
Okay, so just California this time.
Yeah, just California. Yeah,
Okay. Well, hopefully they can go 2-1.
that'd be nice. Come back
Um,
with some points.
Exactly. I mean, these are the ones, these long road trips or cross country trips, if they come back with
Tough.
4 points, well, I'd
Yeah.
call it a win myself.
Yeah,
Movie time. So, Mitchell picked Deadpool versus Wolverine, which is recently on Disney Plus. Thank you for the sponsorship, Disney. Check must be in the mail.
yeah.
After that thing you do, and then this. I mean, we're crushing the Disney train right now. But so let's start with Alex. Alex, what was your take and then the rating?
I really like the movie. I mean, it's funny. Deadpool's a good movie. You know, I showed it to a couple of kids at school. They really liked it. But no, I
In the
mean,
paper.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was nice the cameos that came in. You had Blade, you know,
Electra.
Electra was in there. I mean, it was an entertaining movie. A lot of. I mean, it's always funny. I mean,
Yeah.
if you've seen the other ones. The one thing that I thought was real funny was when he's making fun of Wolverine for wearing the suit. He's like, friends don't let friends fight crime, working or playing for the Rams or something like that. I thought that was funny, but yeah, the great soundtrack too. Some really good tunes in that one when they're fighting. But I'd say I give it maybe a 7.5.
Goose, I know you said before you hadn't seen any of the Deadpools. Did you watch them all, or just this one, or what was your?
I did not watch them all, so I'm going to preface what I say by saying that I will watch all of them over and then watch this one again. Because there's a lot of flashbacks and a lot of points movie that I was like, I think I needed to watch the other
There's a lot of
two.
like Marvel tie-ins too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was kind of, so I didn't really like it, only in the sense that I didn't understand some of the
Yeah, it makes sense.
references.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a lot of
so I
MCU
was
stuff
like,
in it.
so there was a few things that I was like, all right, I need to go watch and kind of start from pretty much the Spider-Man right after, what is that, Far From Home or something, like right after that, and start watching the MCU again, because I kind of lost track of it a little bit since after Endgame, outside of that Spider-Man movie, which I think will help me. And I told Andy, as big of an MCU fan as I am, X-Men and Wolverine never been my thing. So the the kicks into the Wolverine and X-Men and all that sort of stuff, I had no clue. I was completely lost about what happened. I was like, what do you mean this happened? So I didn't quite, and obviously I didn't understand the Deadpool character, because that obviously gets introduced in the first movie of how it got there and everything. So I was a little, so the fight scenes were cool. It was definitely gory, and like you guys said, it was definitely not a movie to watch with Bexton, and I didn't watch it with him. We actually turned it off. Andy actually got caught into it, and she watched the first one, the second one, and the third one.
Wow.
She's had, I think it's more to do with Ryan Reynolds than anything, but that's just me. But to me, like in
Well, I don't think
comparison,
it's
'cause I
that one.
didn't know where it was, as much as like I like the Thor character, the first two Thor movies were absolutely awful.
Oh, they're bad.
So I'm kind of at the, in that rating point of that's how I felt about this movie at this point. Now, after I watched the first two in full, plus some of the other MCU stuff, which I think obviously ties in, I'll probably give it a different rating because I'll understand it. But so right now it'd probably be, it's like a 5.
I get that. Makes
With
sense.
the opportunity
Yeah.
that it'll pick back up after I understand everything else that happens.
we can readjust the scale after you
Yeah.
catch up. I mean, I would say not only some of the movies, but the Loki series is probably where you're going to
Yeah.
get the majority of the, like everything with the I can't remember the name of the place now, but everything from the multiverse
Oh,
aspect
yeah.
really ties more to Loki than anything else, and Multiverse of Madness with Doctor Strange and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't watch like that Logan movie, you have no idea like most of that stuff that was going on. Yeah.
even some of the
Yeah,
characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
didn't know any of that either.
yeah, so check out Logan, which is, I guess that's now technically MCU, but it was what, Sony. Same thing with the old Spider.
Fox,
Yeah.
I think, right?
Fox,
Fox.
yeah.
Fox,
Yeah.
right?
Because there's
Yeah.
a lot of
How many
references to
times did they have
Fox.
any Fox
Yeah,
had references? Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Fox killed them, but Disney's bringing them back.
For me, I have seen
Working today.
all the other stuff. And Felicia and I saw this initially in the theater. It was the first movie we've been to. We were out of town together for a few days. It's the first movie we've been to by ourselves in like legitimately 10 years, 12 years. I can't even tell you what the last one was, but we're
I
not.
don't know. Me and Jen went to a movie.
Yeah, like I take the girls when we go to movies now. Like we saw Trolls, all the Trolls movies, and we've seen Secret Life of Pets and whatever. We've seen all the kids movies. And that same weekend we saw 2 movies. We saw that and we saw Twisters, which was also good. But anyways, tons of call outs, like you said, like cameos and callbacks to other movies and the MCU. I thought it was funny. I didn't love Deadpool 2. But I thought Deadpool 1 was hilarious. And I think this was more in line with Deadpool 1. And I think the addition of Hugh Jackman and Wolverine made all the difference for me. If it was just another Deadpool movie, I don't know that I would have watched it. But I was excited to see that. And even like the Deadpool fight scenes against the other Deadpools,
Yeah.
I thought it was obviously gory, but I thought it was funny. because I do know of some of those Deadpools from the internet. Just like I'm not a comic book guy generally, but I knew of some of the other ones. And then there was like lots of leaks and speculation leading up to that movie, who was going to be what, So that was cool. So
I thought
I
it
would
was funny
give it-
his wife played the female one.
yeah, never see her face, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'd go 7-7 for me. I'll get Mitchell's rating as well. We'll pop it up on the screen. So who is it? Goose is next, right? Yeah.
Me.
What monster movie are you watching, Goose?
We're not going to watch a monster movie.
Young
This is
Frankenstein.
good. No. So I was kind of in between a couple, but I think I'm gonna it's one of my favorite sports movies of all time. I'm gonna go with Hoosiers.
Let's go on.
All right.
You ever seen that one, Alex?
I've never seen that one.
Hoosiers a good one. It's an older one. Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
So
So it was between that one and Eight Men Out were the two that I was trying
I've
to
never
decide
seen that one.
Okay. I figured that was going to be the one that most people hadn't seen.
Yeah.
But maybe
I'll
I'll
look
save
at-
that one for the next time.
Hoosiers is a good one. I have not watched it in a long time, but it used to be on
Yeah.
like PBS or USA or one of those networks. Back in the day. So
One thing I should have looked at is what
What
streaming
service?
service is on.
yeah, you can text it to us. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Eventually, something's going to happen where we're going to have to share a login. You guys know that.
Yeah.
That's going to be the thing where someone's going to have to, someone will eat the $9.99 for the 1 month, and we'll move on. My movie pick is going to be the entire series of Ted Lasso. So,
That's all.
Anyway.
That's great. I've actually seen that. Oh, it's not
Ted
gonna-
Lasso's awesome.
No freebies. All right, so maybe I'm going to, because you got to buy it on Prime. Stupid. Even though I'm a Prime member, that's dumb.
We can figure it out. I'm not.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, if I got to pay for it, it's not a big deal.
it's something I'd watch again.
So, I don't even have a DVD player anymore. I was thinking about it. I actually think I still have the DVD downstairs from high school.
You got a
you
PlayStation 2 still from college?
No.
Oh, man. PlayStation 2.
Well, we used to play Madden
Yeah.
in Bruce's room all the time back in
Yeah.
the good old days.
Good times.
So
No. Good times. No issues. No concerns. Didn't have to
I
worry
remember
about all
my
that stuff.
Yeah.
not
such
to
an easier
not to
time.
sidetrack us. I don't want to dive down a rabbit hole at this point in the podcast, but I came across not too long ago on a flash drive. It was my money sheet, like my monthly bills and what I owed for things, and it was right when I got in the military. So I would have been, your senior year, you guys senior year of college, and it was 6 lines. It was like cell phone, car insurance, 1 credit card, the one
Crazy.
student loan that I was making payments on at the time, and like I don't, it might have been another credit card, like 2 $500 limit credit cards, and that was it. Then I was done, and then on the right it was like gas was like $40 for the month,
Crazy.
and groceries was like $130 because it was just me and Felicia at the time. And, this is 2009, or no, it was just me because Felicia was still in college. And that was it. Like I think
Crazy.
my whole thing was like $460 total for the month was everything.
Yeah, that's
Jeez,
crazy to
that's
think about, isn't
nuts.
it?
Yeah.
I remember going to bringing, working from the summer or whatever, and bringing, putting $2,500 or whatever in the checking account, and
Rich.
that would last me the
Yep.
entire school year
Oh, yeah.
in college.
Dude,
Obviously,
I
being
mean,
the RA, my senior year, I would get $60 or something getting paid or whatever, because most of it went toward tuition.
Yeah.
But I would get $60 or something roughly every 2 weeks, and that would essentially be my spending money.
now
that
I-
was my spending money.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that was my spending money for the whole weekend. So I think about it. It's like I would go out, I'd get paid on Friday, and I would go and I'd get a 30 pack, and then I would come back and I would, hey, that would be my beer for the whole weekend, and then I would also like go to the bar with that same money.
Yeah.
I'm just
$3
saying, I
beer.
was just like, thinking
Yep.
about it. I was
Yep.
like, how is that possible? How is that physically possible? Like, it's
60
crazy.
bucks makes me realize why those guys were all clowns that we had to deal with that the year before. Well, the year Derek was one, and the year before that, you remember who our team was? I don't want to say their names on the podcast.
Yeah,
God
probably
knows.
not a good idea, but I
don't
know.
know if it's the But you remember, Goose, I think you were in the room. We were
I
playing Air Raid in my room, and the RA, that clown that lived on the first floor, said he heard ping pong ball, and I lived on the fourth floor.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I got in more trouble from student affairs that year. Not real trouble. Like,
Yeah, it was just a counselor
Right,
come and
okay.
talk to you.
Yeah,
Don't do that.
that was-
Stop doing that.
That was the year we still lived on the fourth floor, because the next year we
You
got
went-
pushed to the third floor, right?
that was the year I never left. I never lived on the third, so it would have been the year after I was
Because
gone.
we got pushed. Yeah, because we got pushed to the third floor one year. The guys got like it was poet on the first floor,
Mhm.
and then second floor was females, and then
Second,
boys with
third.
girls.
Yeah.
And girls was on the fourth floor, like the one year. Because I remember the one year.
Must have been 08, 09.
Yeah, I think that's when I was in there.
Kate Deer, Kate Deer, now Kate Deer, and then Dane was on the third floor. Kate Parker was the, I can't remember who the RD was. Was that might have been Derek?
Derek was, so when I was there, it was my last year. It was
No, it was
what was that girl?
Christine.
Christine.
Christine
Was
Christine, yeah.
Derek was
Yep.
fourth,
No,
and then it was like that was the year with Vicious and
well,
Big
that was the
Ben,
year I got,
or
and that was
Big
the year
Rob.
I broke my ankle.
That was the year because then you ended
Yeah.
up
when
on
I
the
was
fourth floor
when I was
'cause you
on the
couldn't
third
stand.
when we were on the third floor was the year I broke my ankle and I had to go down on the first floor, and then
No,
I
you were on the
became
fourth.
the RA my second semester.
Was
You were
Rob?
fourth floor, Goose.
Was there a Rob that was a NRA?
Henry Rob was the year before.
Okay.
Yeah, that was when Gary Damon
Maybe
was the
so.
RD.
Okay, so Rob was the RD that year. The year that whenever I broke my leg,
You went down to the
that
first
was
floor.
the year. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the year Rob was there, because then I became the RA my junior year in the second semester, because Danielle, who was the first floor RA, she was like the pirate. I don't know if you remember that. Like, she thought she was a pirate. And she was a Bucks fan. She lived in Buffalo. She was a Bucks fan. I don't know how it was possible, but she left or whatever, and they asked me if I would do it, because Adam and I had gone through the round of interviews or whatever the year before, and apparently I was one of the final choices somehow. Don't know how, but so I got that, and then they moved me over to O'Shea for my senior year. It's fun.
We'll do a podcast, just an OD reminisce podcast. One of
We
these
should.
days.
Yeah.
We'll do
Well,
it.
we'll
Might
have
be
to
like
have a guest
3 hours.
appearance. We'll have to have a
What?
guest appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
from,
we'll bring in some old guys.
Ben.
Maybe we can
From
get
Ben.
Jake to come on.
Yeah.
Maybe we just
Be
send out the
social.
invite to everybody.
Yeah. That would be fun.
Like,
I haven't seen
Ben,
Derek.
Jake,
I
Derek,
couldn't tell you the last time I
Little
saw
Ben,
Derek.
Big Rob. Who else? Maybe
It's
Verena?
worth sending an invite if they don't. I don't know how many people we can have on here. Is there
16.
a certain number we have?
Yeah, 16.
Okay. Nice.
Wow.
Okay. Perfect. That works.
Yeah. So maybe we do it. So, all right. If you were able to stick around for through this portion that probably meant nothing or you don't care about, we appreciate you. We'll catch you next time. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Well, those.